Hi there. Welcome to Warm-Ups for Young Adult Singers. These warm-ups will introduce you to some basic concepts of singing and provide you a structure for how and what to vocally stretch before working on music. They're designed to be general in order to apply to singers of a variety of experience levels and to help you prepare for any number of singing activities. This could include an individual practice session, a choir, musical theater, band or ensemble rehearsal, even a voice lesson or a coaching. These exercises are not intended to take the place of vocal instruction nor give you a specific style of singing. Every serious singer owes it to themselves to work with a qualified teacher or style coach for those things. As we go, I'll use some terms that you may not be familiar with. I'll give you an explanation of them so we have a common understanding. So, let's start with the terms range and voice part. In singing, the term range is often used to describe the highest and the lowest notes that a singer can produce. It also describes the notes that are the most musically useful to a singer. And that's because some of the notes that we're able to produce may not be appropriate for our performance or for frequent use. That's why this warm-up series will be presented in a lower range and in a higher range. It's important to understand that your vocal range is not the same as your voice part. Your voice part or vocal category or voice type are commonly described with terms like soprano, alto, tenor, bass, and some others. The lower range video will be most comfortable for singers that are already singing easily as a bass or a baritone. The warm-ups presented in the higher range video will be most comfortable for singers who are already singing easily either as a high baritone or as a tenor. If you're not sure which range you should be singing in, you can ask a music teacher that knows your voice well, or you can experiment by singing along to these videos and recording yourself as you sing. Some helpful guides you can use to determine which range are best for you are 1. How much strain are you creating to make a sound? And 2. How much control do you have in that part of your range? Now, strain is something that we can see, we can hear, and we can feel it in our throat. If you look, sound, or feel like you're picking up something that's a little too heavy for you, chances are high that you're straining. I'll talk more about what I mean when I say control once we get into the exercises. So issues about strain and control are different from questions like, what singer do I want to sound like? Or what songs do I want to sing? And that's because answering the questions of range and control have to be answered before you can choose a song or a style that fits you best. As you find your most comfortable range, you may discover that it's higher or lower than you expected. You may also discover that the range over which you have good control was smaller than you first thought. Well, guess what? That's okay. Through regular practice, your command will increase, and with it, your ability to sing with greater expression. So with that in mind, it's important to stay open-minded. How well your voice functions in a given range will change as you grow and evolve as a singer and as a person. This might lead to a change in your voice part, but that change has nothing to do with your talent or your ability as a singer. These exercises will help you train several basic vocal ideas we use in singing of every style. Since many of you are a different age than I am, I've asked a few singers that I work with to help me out with the initial demonstration of them in the hopes they will sing in a way that you can relate to more easily. When you rewatch, feel free to sing along with them.
O, E, A, E, U.
note my colleagues just sang had the following basic elements. First, there's pitch. This is usually described with a letter name, but sometimes we use solfege or scale numbers. Pitches can generally be described as a higher pitch or lower pitch. There's rhythm. Now there are lots of ways to describe rhythm, but for our purposes, let's think of it very basically as how notes move through time. There's loudness. Loudness is sometimes described by the general term dynamics, or by the more specific Italian terms piano, which means softer, and forte, which means louder. We can also describe increasing our loudness with the term crescendo, and decreasing our loudness with the term decrescendo. Vowels are the building blocks of text. How we shape or color a vowel has tremendous influence over the ease and expressiveness of our singing. When we link notes together, we can add two other elements as well. Articulation is how we connect notes through musical emphasis. Now, this is not the same as diction or pronunciation. Common terms for musical articulation include legato, or smooth, staccato, or separate, and things like accent. But there are lots of other terms as well. Consonants can also aid or challenge a singer's articulation. There's also tempo, which is how fast or how slow we pace a musical idea. Okay, now it's your turn. We're going to start first with an exercise that practices how we start and how we sustain a sound. The Italians use the articulation term a portato, which means to carry through the length of a note. We'll start in this pitch. Some things to keep in mind as we go along. You want to make sure that the beginning of your sound or your onset is clear. You don't want it to be too hard. Oh. You also don't want it to be too weak. Oh. Similarly, you want the vowels to be balanced and what you intend them to be. Shoot for an oo vowel that sounds like the word who, an e vowel that sounds like the word we, and an ah vowel that sounds like the word hot. Another thing to keep in mind is you want to make sure your mouth is open wide enough that we can hear the sound, but we don't want to over open. A good rule of thumb is 2 fingers. If you place them between your upper and lower teeth, that should give you a space that's just right. Finally, every now and then, I'm going to ask you to check in with your breath. You shouldn't feel like you're blowing out birthday candles, but you should feel like a little bit of air is moving. A good way to check is to place a finger up to your mouth. If you feel a little bit of warmth and air moving past your finger, chances are you're on the right track. So, let's get going. I'll start with you, and then I'll drop out, and you'll keep going on your own. Here we go. O, E, A. O, E, A. Sitting tall, ears over the shoulders. O, E, A. Easy breath in. O, E, A. Space between the teeth. O, E, A. Check in with your vowels. O, E, A. Check in with your breath. O, E, A. Keep going without me. Easy breath in. Easy loudness. Head back down. O, E, A. O, E, A. Easy loudness. Couple more. O, E, A. O, E, A. Last one. O, E, A. Let's move on to exercise 2. The goal of this exercise is to sing from note to note in as smooth a fashion as possible. The Italians call this articulation legato. You're looking for a smooth or a sliding experience from note to note. The pitches should be accurate, but they should be as connected as possible. You're also looking for the vowel to remain consistent from note to note. Another thing to keep in mind is as you sing up, don't feel like you need to reach for the pitch, and as you sing down, don't feel like you need to cram down. Some other things to keep in mind are, can you rotate your head back and forth, or can you roll your shoulders? That'll help us make sure that things aren't locked that don't need to be locked in terms of other muscles. And then of course, check in with your alignment, your 2 fingers of space in your mouth, and your easy breath. Easy, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to go up first on an E vowel. E. Then we're going to go down on an U vowel. O. Let's get started. E. O. Smooth. E. O. Consistent vowel. E. O. Check in with your loudness. E. O. Make sure you're not reaching. E. O. Can you move your head? E. O. Your turn. Switch to the U vowel. Make sure you're not reaching, ears over the shoulders. Switch to the U vowel. Easy loudness, 3 out of 4. Ooh. Last one. Nice job. This next exercise practices the articulation known as staccato or short. But I'm going to warn you, it's going to feel a little strange in terms of where we're doing this in your range. We're going to use this staccato figure to practice warming up our falsetto or our false voice. This is a sound that we don't typically use in public as a tenor, bass, or baritone. However, stretching the muscles that produce the falsetto and warming the voice up in this production can be very helpful in balancing our overall sound. We're going to start about here. And what we'll do is you can hear the sound that I'm using is very breathy and it's very quiet. But I'm focusing on that crisp, even, balanced beginning and a short detached sound until the last 2 pitches. Let's try this together. Breathing in. keep the falsetto going even though we're lower. Last one. You'll notice that our goal was to stay in that falsetto quality for the entire exercise. If as you try to do that, the voice sounds a little rough or the pitches don't come out clearly, that's okay. Remember, this is a very specialized stretch to work a specific group of muscles. Okay, so this next exercise helps us practice getting louder, or the crescendo, and getting softer, the decrescendo. Now your loudness is going to be relative, and one of the ways you can know how far you've gone is by what your vowel clarity sounds like. You want it to always remain clear and without any strain. If it gets too fuzzy or too breathy, you've probably gotten too quiet. Similarly, if the pitch changes or if it gets a little bit too strident, you've probably gone too far. When you first start this, you may find that the quietest sound that you can manage is maybe a 4 out of 10, with 10 being the loudest that you can sing, and that the loudest you can go is maybe a 5 or a 6. That's okay. With practice, this range will become larger. This is also a good time for me to mention vibrato, which is a steady but small oscillation or variation of a pitch center. Now, some singers have a more present vibrato than others, and that can be for any number of reasons. There are also musical styles which have an expectation for you to either take vibrato out or put vibrato in. For purposes of this exercise, I want you to allow your vibrato to be present from beginning to end, but don't force it if you don't have one. The shimmer or the spin of the vibrato should remain fairly consistent in speed and range as you get louder and softer. Here we go. Starting on an oo vowel, getting louder and then getting softer. Check your alignment. Space between the teeth. How clear is the vowel? Head back down. A little bit louder, a little bit softer. Make sure your vowel stays clear. Is your vibrato consistent? If you have it. Good. Can you move your head back and forth? So exercise number 5 is where we start combining different elements that we've already exercised in previous stretches. It can be a real balancing act. The first part of the pattern, we want to focus on 2 things. The bottom note should be relatively louder than the higher note, and we also want to make sure there's a legato uninterrupted leap from 1 to 8. As we come down, we want to make sure that we're accurate in our pitch, the consistent of the vowel clarity, and that there's a slight messo di voce or crescendo decrescendo action on each note. Also, if your vibrato is present, make sure it's present throughout. And then with everything else, you want to make sure you have physical ease and mobility, that your mouth is open, about 2 fingers width apart. So, I'll demonstrate it once, and then we'll shift it into a key where we can get started for your voice part. While every note we sing should be properly balanced, there are places in our range where too much imbalance can make things difficult. For higher voices, this can start as soon as C, and it becomes more noticeable as we ascend. With practice, you'll come to recognize where notes sit in your range, and you'll be able to anticipate the choices you need to balance your voice. As we continue with this exercise, double your awareness and your commitment to your choices of loudness and vowel clarity. As you first practice these tasks, you may struggle or feel a bit limited in how much you can crescendo or decrescendo. Be patient with yourself. Lastly, I will play these exercises perhaps higher or lower than you can sing. Don't be a hero. Only sing as high as you can without strain. Now I'll get started with you on the first few, but then I'm going to drop out. Again, I'm not the same age as you, and I don't want you sounding like me. It's only to demonstrate the choices I'm asking you to go for. Stronger on the bottom, softer on the top, consistent vowel all the way through, and consistent vibrato all the way through. Okay, upper voices, here we go. As we go along, lower upper voices, you'll hear me say, this might be a good time for you to drop out. Similarly, upper voices, there might be times where I say, this might be a little too low for you. I'll try to guide you along the way. We're starting in a key where the lower upper voices should be comfortable to start, but if you're an upper voice, it might be a little bit too low. That's okay. My goodness. Here we go. Lower upper voices. Okay, uppers, join us. Keep going. Full on the bottom. Easy on the top. Crescendo slightly. Full on the bottom, ears over the shoulders. Easy on the top. Right, no reaching with the chin, 2 spaces in the mouth. Good. Easy on the top. Lower upper, this might be your last one. Full on the bottom, upper voices. Easy on the top. One more upper. Let's come on back down. Full on the bottom. Easy on the top. Lower upper voices, join back in. Keep going, everybody. Full on the bottom. Upper, that might be your last one. That's okay if it is. lower, upper. Let's do 2 more. Last one. Nice job. So there you go. 5 warm-up exercises to get your voice going. Keep in mind, warming up isn't just about singing scales and patterns over and over again until you're done. It's about practicing the adjustments you need to make in order for your voice to create a vocal idea and recognizing what it feels like when your body creates that idea well. Here's how you work towards that. Be prepared to ask yourself very specific questions about these vocal ideas while you're singing. At first, you may not be sure how to accurately answer these questions, and that's okay. Becoming familiar with how you hear and feel your own voice is as much a part of developing your technique as any sound you might create. You might want to record yourself while you warm up and then listen back. You'll quickly notice that how things sound on the outside are different from how they sound to you on the inside. Allow yourself to focus on quality rather than quantity. These warm-ups should take you only about 10 or 15 minutes, maybe even less once you get familiar with them. They're not designed to take you to the extremes of your range or your loudness, but they will challenge you to get the basics right and have you feel ready to start more specific musical activity. Thanks for watching. I hope these help you in your regular practice. And whatever you do, keep singing.